Hello and welcome to the I Love Me Lab show. My name is Gail Buck, and I'm an NLP Master Life Coach, meditation instructor, and a seeker of happiness. And each week, we're going to bring you an inspiring person or message to help you discover additional ways of self-care, self-love, and becoming a healthier, happier you. So thanks for spending time with us today, and let's let the show begin. Hey, everybody, and welcome to my first solo round for the I Love Me Lab podcast. And today we're going to talk about finding your purpose, your life purpose. And the reason we're talking about this is I'm a coach, as you probably know already. And I have a lot of clients, especially when they're a little bit younger, that come to me and say, you know, how do I find my life purpose? I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I don't know what to do. And so let's talk a little bit about that. Because oftentimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, don't we? Into finding out, what am I supposed to do? How do I find my life purpose? Because it's this big thing that's out there that we're supposed to do. I think that we should remove the word should and supposed to from our vocabulary. And I think that life would be a lot easier and a lot better. Because then we would let things flow the way they're supposed to flow instead of trying to make ourselves fit into a container where we don't really want to be. Does that make sense? So we're going to talk about finding your purpose. And, you know, Mark Twain has this quote that I love, and he says something to the effect of, the two most important days in your life are the day that you're born and the day that you figure out why. You know, why are you here? What are you supposed to be doing? And I think that we all have a purpose. And sometimes we don't think about it and don't do anything about it. And sometimes we think so hard about it that we're putting a wall up and we don't see it, even though it's right in front of our eyes. So let's dig into 10 steps that you can use to find your life purpose. And the first one, step number one, is exploring things that you love to do. What brings you joy? I mean, so often we're trying to do what we think we're supposed to be doing, or we're, you know, chasing that money and doing something that we don't want to do because we want to earn that money for, you know, the big house or the nicer car or whatever the case might be. And all those things are wonderful and all those things are important. But when you're really operating from what you want to do and from what makes your heart sing, you're going to find that the money comes as well. So first step is finding out, like, what do I really love to do? What brings me joy? The second step is taking ownership of your life. You know, if you are playing the blame game, let's stop playing the blame game and take ownership. Because the truth is that your life is exactly the way you've designed it. Yep, I'm going to say it again because it's important. Your life is exactly the way you've designed it. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the wonderful. And that doesn't mean if you have really challenging or horrible things in your life that you invited that into your life. But what it does mean is that there's a quote that I don't know if it's Tony Robbins or if you learned it from someone else, but it's, you know, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, right? So things happen in your life. And do you move on and learn from them and let them go? Or do you just hang on there and you become a victim and everything that's happening in your life is because of this external force or something that maybe you did play a role in, whether you did or you didn't, you're still hanging on tight to it. So are you allowing yourself? Are you loving yourself? This is an I Love Me Lab question. Are you loving yourself enough to let go of this thing that doesn't serve you and learn from it if you can? And if there was nothing to learn from it, then okay, accept it. It's done. It's over. Let's move on. If it was a past failure that you had, remember, failure is only feedback. There's no such thing as failure. It's just feedback. And as long as you keep failing forward, right? You're moving forward. There was no such thing as failure. It was just a learning step along the way. And you're taking ownership of your life. And you're embracing the things that happen that take you to the next step. Okay? So that's step number 2. Step number 3 is focus on what you already have. So how many times are we operating from scarcity rather than from abundance, where we're focusing on what we want and what we don't have, And we're missing out on all these wonderful things that we already have. Like, I can't tell you, especially with social media is great. And there's a lot of wonderful things on social media and the internet, and our phones are these mini computers. But I see so many like young families now, and they're sitting there with their kids at a restaurant, or they're sitting at the park, and the kids are playing themselves and the adult is locked onto their telephone. Or maybe the kids are locked onto a telephone as well, and you're missing all this beautiful thing that's around you. So, focus on what you have right now. It's fleeting. This moment is fleeting. And this moment is the only thing that's real. Remember, the past it's gone. And quite frankly, we all have a version of the past, depending on how we process whatever that occurrence was. It's a story that we told ourselves, and it's a portion of what really, really, really happened. It's only a piece of it, right? Somebody else has that same experience and might have a whole other interpretation, the story of what happened. So the past isn't real anymore, and the future certainly isn't real. So really learning to focus on where you are right now in this moment is super important. And what do you have this moment? So if you are worried about money, for example, at this moment, are you safe? Do you have food? Do you have a roof over your head? And if you don't, can you get to safety at this moment and not be worrying about what might happen in the future? Really focusing on where you are right now. Now, a really good exercise to do in finding your life passion, life purpose, is to write out your story. So have you ever done that? So if you actually sit down and, be by yourself and undistracted, and music if you want it, or quiet if you prefer. I kind of like quiet when I do things like that. Write out your life story. Go back as far as you can and write down little memories that you have. And as you start, you're going to find, first of all, it's a lot of fun. You're going to remember things that were kind of stuck back there and you didn't remember anymore. And you're going to remember all the little things that brought you joy that you haven't thought about in a long time. And here's the thing, that especially the older we get, we tend to forget these things that were part of of who we are. And life kind of layers it with, taking care of things, right? So when you think way back to when you were super little, or you were maybe in kindergarten, if you can go back that far, or even earlier, what are stories that you can write down that you can remember, good and bad? Write it all down. And you'll see that you definitely have patterns in your life. You're going to have patterns of things that brought you joy, things that really made your heart sing, things that showed up in your life that made you sad or angry or uncomfortable. And so as you write out your story, you're going to rediscover who your core self is. And I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot of fun. No matter what the stories are, you're going to be able to dig out these little gems and nuggets of both challenging times and beautiful times. You're going to learn a lot about yourself during that time. I, for example, I remember being a little girl, and my nickname is Giggle. To this day, my nickname is Giggle. And a couple of years ago, I asked one of my aunts, because I never really knew what it meant. I kind of liked it. I loved it, actually. I still do, but I didn't know what it meant. And I asked one of my aunts, what did that mean? I mean, why did you guys call me Giggle? And she said, because you were such a happy kid. You were always giggling. My aunt is Hispanic. My aunt, okay, I'm going to call you out. And so she says giggling instead of giggling. And so it was like, oh, so giggle actually means giggle. And now I know, I mean, what a beautiful nickname, right? It's because I was just happy kid and I was giggling all the time. So that's where I got my nickname. And I started remembering all these happy little stories. Now, like a lot of us, I've had my challenges and some really hard moments. And I want to get back to, I am back, but I mean fully back, and embrace that little giggle where I just found joy in a lot of things. I also, in rediscovering my story, I found that when I lit up was when I was doing things like this. Now, we didn't have podcasting back then, but we did have standing up on stage and doing a play. We did have singing in the choir. We did have performing in one way or another, and asking people questions like in my interviews, and digging in and learning about people. And I find that throughout my life, that was when my heart really sang. That's what really lit me up. And so I was able to dig back in and create this podcast, right? It all started from the, I Love Me Lab and finding ways to find giggle again and love myself. And then also after doing that exercise about rewriting my story or writing my story, realizing, oh my goodness, these are the things that I took part in that really lit me up. So after you write your story and you kind of rediscover stuff, how about sitting down and then writing another chapter or 2 or 3 on developing your life vision? I mean, write it down, do a vision board if you'd like, but write down the way you see your life moving forward. What is it that you want? Because you know what? It goes back to taking ownership. This is your life. This is your stage. And are you playing a leading role or are you playing a supporting actor? Because at the end of the day, it's all up to you, not to anybody else. Nobody else's responsibility but yours. So what role do you want to have in your life? And so I'm going to challenge you to take a little bit of time and to write it down and to talk about how you see yourself physically. I mean, is your health where you want it? Is your weight where you want it? Are your relationships where you want them? So does that mean changing a relationship or just changing the way the dynamics of the relationship? So really digging in and finding, fine-tuning, and designing the life that you want so that you can dive into that and go for that. And then step number 6 is to be flexible, because it's okay to be changing your mind, because as you write down this life vision, you want to reiterate your way to awesomeness. That means go in there and keep refining it and tweaking it and changing it. And it doesn't have to be written in stone, because this is your life. So being flexible with yourself, loving yourself, giving yourself a big warm embrace, and allowing yourself to change your mind and to shift if that's what you want to do. And then step number 7 would be aligning your goals. So making sure that the goals that you have as you set your goals are aligned with your life purpose, with your mission, with your passion. Are your goals aligned, or are they kind of side by side, or they have nothing to do with what you really want? Take a look at what you're doing and your goals, and if they're aligned. And then remember, and that's step number 8, to put purpose before your goals. Because we are emotional human beings, and what powers us to move mountains is emotion. So make sure that you put your purpose before your goals. Step number 9 is to spend time with people who inspire you. And I know you've heard this in any type of coaching, any type of, self-improvement. They always talk about you are who you spend time with. Well, there's a lot of truth to that. And you're certainly influenced, whether you believe it or not, by who you spend time with, what you're watching on TV, what you're reading. So if you're immersed in the news all day, that's where your mind is going. If you're immersed in growth things, that's where your mind is going. But you got to also take action, right? So as you're listening and learning and growing, take action on these things. Action is very important. Otherwise, you're just filling up and you're not really actually nurturing that. And then lastly, do you know how you inspire others? Because guess what? Everything that you say and everything that you do affects other people a little or a lot. But do you know? Have you ever asked somebody, if I asked you what's the best thing about me, what would that be? Can you be brave and do that? Or if you were to say, what's the area that you think I should improve in? Could you do that? And just kind of take it as it comes. I remember I asked my mom one time, what is the one thing you'd say about me? What is the best thing about me? And she said, oh, that's easy. And I said, what is it? And she said, you love yourself. And I said, well, yeah, but everybody loves themselves. And she says, no, they don't. She said, you love yourself and you show yourself that all the time, which is also why I came up with this podcast. And it's about really taking time to acknowledge, for me, myself in ways to, whether I'm cooking myself a romantic dinner with candlelight. Yep, I do that. I celebrate myself all the time. Or the delicious bath, or just the quiet time, or the forgiving myself for something maybe I said or didn't say or did or didn't do. How is it that you inspire other people, or what do other people see when they see you? Because there's learning to be had from that as well. Okay, so those are like 10 steps to finding your life purpose. Now, in order, since we are emotional human beings and we're driven by emotion, one of the most important things to being able to get to where we want to go is our mindset. I know you probably know this already too. So if you were to think of people that are super successful, like let's look at Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, and you were to ask, what do you think got them to where they are now? Is it all the money that they have? Is it the connections that they had? Was it their intelligence? Or is it the mindset? I think it's their mindset, right? Because you could take all those other things away from them, and they have such a strong mindset and such a determination for what they want and clarity for what they want, to go after, that they will be able to rebuild it or build something even better, if you took everything away today. So there are different kinds of mindsets, and it doesn't matter if you're 8 years old or if you're 80 years old. There's always time to find your life purpose, to find your passion, and again, being flexible, because it probably would change from when you were 8 to 80, but maybe not, because I'll tell you what, my life purpose is to be happy. That's really my purpose, is to, with all the challenges that exist in my life, and there are some big ones, my intention is to honor myself and to do the best that I can in every situation. And at the end of the day, to be Gail and to honor myself and to love myself, because I believe that the more I can love myself, the better and bigger I can love others. Now, there's different kinds of mindsets that you can have. Mindset isn't just one way of looking at things. You can have an abundance mindset. And the opposite of that would be scarcity, right? Where you're, maybe if there's not money right now, you're worrying about, oh my God, what am I going to do tomorrow if I can't pay the bills? Or, where are you right now? What about thinking about where you are at this very second? I mean, if you're thinking about things this very second, that means that you're fine this very second, right? And really taking a look to see, what do I have? Where am I abundant? Is my health beautiful? Are my kids healthy? Is my mind still strong? I mean, whatever the thing might be, operating from an abundant mindset. Or are we talking about a gratitude mindset, where you're very appreciative of everything, that, the flowers or the birds or whatever it is that's makes your heart sing, and that you're in gratitude of the things that happen to you? Do you have a moonshot mindset like Elon Musk? I mean, we're gonna go to outer space and beyond. I mean, that's great too. I mean, you're gonna shoot for those big goals and go after those goals and really make a dent in the universe. So there's so many different mindsets. There's a greatness mindset. There's a growth mindset, which I think is hugely important. And anything that you do, something to keep in mind is that you do make a dent in the world, because every word that we say, every action that we take affects other people around us in more ways than you could even know. I worked years ago. I worked for Tony Robbins. Gosh, it's got to be like 7 or 8 years ago. I worked a year for Tony Robbins, and I was in his coaching sales department. So basically, we did a little bit of coaching, and then we sold the coaching program to the customers. And I had one young man that in the coaching portion, I was able to help him with something. This person reached back to me 7 years later. In fact, I actually thought it was a crank call, because since then my phone number has changed. A lot of information about me has changed. I'm a little bit of a gypsy. I move around a lot. And he hunted me down. And I actually thought at first it was a crank call. And so I was very hesitant on the call. And then he repeated to me what I had said, and the words of wisdom, I guess, that I had given to him. And then it clicked, and I remembered him. And so for me, it was such a beautiful thing, because it reiterated, it strengthened the belief that I already had, not reiterated, strengthened the belief that I already had, supported the belief that I already had, that everything that we say and we do affects somebody else. And so they were just some simple words that I told him that created a big shift for him 7 years ago. And now he wanted additional coaching, and he wanted to pay for a coaching program. And so he said that he'd searched for me for years, because of what I said to him. And he's a client today because of that time. And so think about the things that, that we say and that we do, because it really affects everybody. So, and coaching can support you, whether you would like to work with me, that would be awesome, or finding another coach or finding a good friend, but really to share in your desires, to talk out different strategies, to learning what your life purpose is, to putting things in action. A coach can help you do that. If you are curious about coaching and want to talk to me, you can reach out to me. There should be links on this podcast, and we can set up a complimentary 30-minute discovery session to see if we're a fit. I would absolutely love that. So I welcome you to do that. Just say, Gail Solo Podcast, I'd like a discovery session, and we can get it done. Anyway, I hope that you found these 10 steps and the mindset beneficial for you. So go out there and live your purpose, live with love, and love yourself. Thank you for joining me today, and we'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to this conversation. If you enjoyed it and want more information on our guests and resources, please visit ilovemelab.com. And please, if you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share with a friend. Hey, there's more great episodes to come. So until next time.